There is something to be happy about. Each and every day you wake up, I promise you, if you can name one thing, I ain't going to say 5, say name 7. One thing you can be happy about.
Welcome to the Breakthrough Podcast with your host, Reba Hobbs, a podcast motivated to help survivors of trauma heal and focus on their full potential.
Welcome back to another edition of the Breakthrough Podcast. I am your host, Reba, and I am here today. Of course, it's been a trying few weeks. I was trying to give the last podcast a few more plays that I did with my best friend Missy. So I'm trying to get a few more plays before I record. Sometimes I do that, and sometimes I know I can just spit out the next ones or whatever. So with that being said, today we are going to go right into the podcast and what we're going to talk about. Today's podcast is pretty much going to be a little bit more authentic and transparent, just because we're working on some things, some new things that we're trying to do. Okay, so with that being said, I am here. Happy, it's Tuesday here and it's still summertime and we are in Wisconsin. So I'm here another day to just be here to inspire, to transpire, and to uplift people to have a breakthrough. With that being said, we're going to go into what we're grateful for. I promise you, I'm grateful for trials. And the reason why I say that is because the last few weeks, God has been tapping into me with some things I'm going through personally, mentally, physically, spiritually. And sometimes I think we don't be grateful for the trials, because the trials that we go through at a time may feel dreading. They may feel taunting. They may feel like, I just want to hurry up and get over this. I want to overcome the situation. I want to get out of it. I want to run away from it. I don't want to act like it doesn't exist. So I am grateful, truthfully, for trials. The reason why I say that is because, honestly, trials make you better. They make you improve on your thinking. They make you improve on your empathy, your sympathy, whatever you're going through, what they call trials, tribulations, storms, whatever you want to call your test, whatever. It helps you to improve on who you are. 1. 2, I think what it does for me, it helps me just to be a better person and know that in this time of life, and I keep on saying this, to people, my close people that I talk to, I'm at a point, because I'm 40 now. I don't know what it is about entering 40, but it makes you feel like you just don't want to go through nothing but peace. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to go through anything, but that means that you want to get over it quickly and you want to have peace about it. So these last few months, weeks, if I want to say, I have been tested. I've been tested because I'm battling anxiety. And so with me battling anxiety and trying to overcome the anxiety by the end of this year, don't mean that it's going to eliminate necessarily, but it won't affect me the same way. I'm at the point where I just want peace in my life. That's with friends, that's with family, that's with spouses, that's with best friends. It doesn't matter. And if I don't get that, and if I don't attain that, I just walk away from it. Okay. So because I'm at that point and I'm grateful for the trials, God is tapping into me, 1, to be more transparent about my feelings and to be more open. I love that this year, he also told me to focus on my children. My 2 children have honestly been teaching me so much. I learned so much by being a mom from my son. I honestly, I tell you this, I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for my son to this day. And a lot of people know that. But I'm learning so much from both of my children that I think as parents, we sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for what we do with our children and how they act. Sometimes we just look at all the bad things. And my as you know, I talk about my children all the time. My children are not bad. My children are not bad children. They not. I literally, the way I pray for them is the way that they are. That don't mean they're perfect. That don't mean that I don't have problems with them. But it means that God has given me my children and gave me my children to make sure that I realize who I am. I see so much of me in my kids. So that will be, I'm going to write into the podcast now, but that will be what I'm grateful for, just the trials. But to continue on the platform, because it has to do with what I'm talking about, enter on the platform. My children are teaching me life lessons on how to be more involved, how to be more of a spiritual parent, not religious parent, and how to be more open. I've always been an open mother. I was always talking to my son. My son is 16, so I've always talked to him about a lot of stuff, a lot of life skills, a lot of necessary stuff as him being a Black young man. A lot of things in society, in the world, politics, whatever. I've talked to him about that at a young age, so he's very wise for his age. He's very aware for his age. And so when me and him conversate, it's a little different where you really don't think you're talking just to a 16-year-old in the day and age that they are now. He thinks a lot. My daughter, I literally feel like her and my son are just like, she's more of my accountability because she can check her mama. She's more of she loves singing. She knows how to sing like her dad sang. So I love that. She's an artist. Draws very well, just like my son. My son is an artist too. And they both are into music in two different ways, but they both. And so it's so funny because I feel like God gave me two different kids, but the exact same. But I see myself so much in both of them. It's crazy. It's just sometimes it's an off for me. But with that being said, that's not what this is about. When we actually think about things that we have been through in our past, when we think about things we have been through now, we don't congratulate ourselves enough for overcoming things. One, being a better person. Two, because sometimes people don't overcome stuff. I have been depressed before. I've been suicidal before. And I think my last separation, divorce, it took me to a whole nother space. But I'm happy I went to those spaces. I'm happy that I felt those feelings. I'm happy that who I am is this woman that's very vibrant, that speaks up, that's very transparent about her story. I don't have to hide anything. I don't have to feel like, oh, somebody's going to judge me. I don't care. But with that being said, me not even caring, I also know my worth. And I know my value. And I know where God has placed me. Because I honestly wouldn't be in this place if it wasn't for God. I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for my relationship with the Lord. And so, even though right now there are some things that where I'm trying to attack physically, spiritually, we still gotta, I'm still working on things with my health. I'm still working on things with my mental. And on top of that, I still am a mother. I still gotta be a spouse. I still have to do life. I still have to work. I'm going back to work at the end of August. I'm so excited for that. I really am. Because I love working with children. But I still have to face life. And I think that's what we all must remember. That no matter what circumstances and what things that we're going through, one, you can't tear yourself down. You can't beat yourself up. Because once you do that, you're not getting nowhere. You're just going to stay stuck in who you are. Two, since My best friend Maddie has been back in my life. I've talked about her many times on the podcast before, our separation that we had over the last 4 years. But since she has been back in my life, I have had this exuberant feeling of things are going to work out. Has nothing to do with her necessarily, but it has to do with who you surround yourself with. And I want y'all to remember this. Your friends and your family is a counteract or a factor or a evolution or whatever you want to call it of you and your surroundings. So if you have rotten people around you, you're not going to grow. You're not going to flourish. One thing about Maddie is that we kind of like the same person, but we keep each other up. If she's going through something, she knows she can call me and we can go be like, attack it. One of the things I love about her, she loves that my gift is I can help. But she's like, when we was talking about the movie Inside Out 2, she is joy. She is that person that she just wants the best out of everybody. She just like, okay, this is going to work out. I don't know how. And you could say someone is the worst person in the world. She still feels like it's going to work out. It's still going to be, there's still going to be positive. She just got to see the positive. And I love that about her because it's like, it gives you another opposition of thinking. So having friends like that when you're going through trials or you're going through tribulations, sometimes you want them, they need to vent. She called me to vent. I call her to vent. And then we get back to square one, like, where we at? What we doing? How can I help you? And so that's the relationship that most of your friendships should have. Most of your relationships should have. Most of your family should have. If you have, woe is me, people around you, negative Nancy, what they want to call it, all that, it's not going to work. There's nothing you can do. Sometimes you need to remove those people for a temporary time or for permanent time. It's up to you. You need to dig deep and say, okay, is this a permanent situation? Is this a temporary situation? And be bold enough to understand and know that this is where I'm at. I deserve certain things out of my life. And so because you deserve life, it's going to attack you and it's going to bring whatever necessary negative things. But because you deserve more, separating yourself from someone that you see clearly is not growing, it's not doing better for themselves, it's not, don't want to see better for themselves, I don't see nothing wrong. Another thing, I think when you're going through trials, it's easy to focus on what's not happening. It's easy to focus on, oh my God, I ain't got no job. I'm sick all the time. These bills are piling up. It's so easy to focus on that. I think we all do. I do it sometimes too. It's so easy to focus on what's not happening than saying, okay, maybe I don't have a job. What can I do? Sometimes for me, this is what I was telling Maddie too. Because when I'm going through stuff, I have to help somebody else when I'm going through something. It's just like she just bought this house and she trying to sell the next house. And so I'm helping her. We helped her move things and I've been there for her here and there, right? So it's easy to say, oh, I'm going through something. Let me be in my dark corner. Because sometimes I want to be in my dark corner. And just woe is me. But then those times I got to pull myself out. And I got to say, nope, I can't be in my dark corner. Who can I help? You know why I say that? It's because somebody is always going through worse than you. Right now, somebody is in a hospital bed dying. Somebody is in the hospital. They might not be dying, but they're in a hospital. And who is it to say that I walk around with all my limbs and working function and I can move my arms up and down and I can talk to you and I can speak and I can, move, that somebody in the hospital bed can't do just a little bit I just did. Sometimes I start thinking about that. I start thinking about that over the years after I've been homeless before. And it's like but your situation could be worse. And so instead of focusing on what you can't do, what's not happening, start focusing on what you can do to help somebody else. I promise you, it helps. When that happens, that's when you'll start saying, oh, I'm not going through so much. Somebody always going through worse than me. Not to make you feel better, because that's not what it's about. It's like, let me start focusing on myself. There are people that, I use this example all the time, that ask to be married. Married, I want to be married. But then you get in the marriage and you don't want to do the work. But there are people that desire to be married, that's doing the work and cannot find a spouse. The right spouse. That's not just equal to jump and get married and just marry anybody and go to trauma and hell. People that's actually really doing the work. I think we all know about Dear Future Wifey podcast. I pray for that man to find a wife. I promise you I do. Because he's putting his work out there to the world transparently through his podcast. It's like, oh my God, he's doing all this. He needs to have a wife. He's not perfect. I'm sure but he talks about his testimonies. He talks about his failures. He talks about the circumstances. But somebody like that, that's actually doing the work to be a husband, not to just be married. And then there's people that get married and then they're like, oh, okay. Your situation always could be worse. Because you could be, that don't mean that he's not enjoying his singleness, because I tell people all this every time. I've not been, my first marriage, I wasn't married that long, but it was going on 10 years. But it was enough for 10 years to learn that I was telling my single friends still at that time, and I still say it to this day. Marriage is beautiful. It is. But it's not something to jump and rush into. You got to take it seriously. Because marriage will be the greatest thing to bring your ugliness out. That's the person you got to wake up to every day that sees the good, the bad, the ugly in you. That's the person that's going to bring it out. And if you're with the right person, the right accountability partner, the right purpose partner, they'll bring it out of you. One way or the other. But they'll bring it out of you in a way where you'll start taking accountability and say, yeah, I didn't realize that about myself. Marriage will do that. Marriage will make you realize things that you didn't know, that you didn't think of, that you wouldn't even say, okay, I want to be this person, I want to be that person, I just want to be a husband. And be like, you found out you might be the worst husband. You thought that you was going to be a good husband, and it's like, you're not really a good husband. That's what marriage does. Or a good wife, or a good spouse. Those are all trials, right? But there is always somebody going through worse. We could say, okay, we don't have the money to pay the bills. We don't have money to, might be robbing Peter, pay Paul, the favorite saying everybody say. But at least you robbing Peter, pay Paul. Because you're talking to somebody that was actually homeless. A lot of people say they're homeless because they live with somebody. I live with people too. But no, I lived in my car with my son. Homeless. At least you robbing Peter, pay Paul. It might not be the money you want. It might not be the money you desire. It might not be what you need at that time. But you got something coming in. You're not homeless. You don't have no money. Trust me. It's a difference between having some money and you in between blessings. Now, what I call it now. And it's so funny because my son said that to me a couple weeks ago. He was like, Mama, you just in between checks. And I was like, I know that's right, son. In between blessings, in between checks. That's the whole point of it. God would do the work in you that he needs to do in you during that trial and that tribulation. If you allow it to happen, one, and if you see yourself not being the damsel in distress and the was me person, that's even with grief. I talk about this all the time in therapy and with my friends, grief is another thing. Now, we all grieve. We grieve. We all grieve different things. We all grieve a lot of stuff. But I'm talking about death. I tell people all the time, you should never allow nobody to tell you how long you gotta grieve. My grandmother passed 4 years ago, and I'm still grieving. It was so funny because just last week, I had a dream about her, and she was speaking to me. And it was like in the dream, clear as day, like she was speaking. I'm not going to say what she was speaking to me. I remember some things and some things I don't, but I know at a certain point in time, when it's needed to remember, I'm going to remember. That's usually how God do it, because I'm a dreamer. But she was speaking to me. And it was just like, oh, it felt like she was here. But I'm still grieving her death. So then the next day, it was so funny. And that part 2 days later. I love pineapple coconut cake. I love pineapple coconut cake because that was one of her favorite cakes. She used to make around the holiday time. And the holidays is always a week before my birthday. So that's just one of my favorite cakes. German chocolate and pineapple coconut. 2 favorite cakes. And so 2 days later, it was like this advertisement came up of this pineapple coconut cake on Facebook. And I was like, and I had posted like, I'm gonna make this because my girl, I said, you have to dream about my grandmother. And I don't know, people could say what they want to say. It was a sign or whatever. It was just in particular that just was funny that happened. Like, she was here with me. She was talking to me. I don't know. But I know the dream was real. I know the dream was real. It felt too real. And it was some personal things that I'm dealing with now that was in that dream. Whew, I'm trying not to cry. But, so I say that to say, because you're grieving, that doesn't give you anybody the right to tell you how long you gotta grieve. Cry. Happy. Listen to a song that the person grieve, do different things. Someone could have died prematurely that we don't understand. I have a nephew that died 7 years ago. Prematurely. He was on 18 at the time. And over the years, I had to realize, regardless of what we wanted it or not, that was kind of God's plan from birth for him not to die, but prematurely. But whatever God allowed, he allowed it for whatever reason. And that was like my first son before my son. That boy was my son. And it's so funny because him and my son got so much alike, and they look alike. And so I just love how God do certain things in my life personally that made me realize that he actually is listening. I love how he does things where I can tap into him and it be like, oh, okay. Or he'll just talk to me and I'll be sitting there and something happened and something I prayed for through a trial or tribulation or something storm that I'm going through. He'll give me an answer and be like, that's the key right there. And 1, it makes me happy. 2, it makes me know that he's listening. But 3, it also makes me feel like, okay, this is just temporary. I'm coming out of this. All storms are temporary, even though they may feel like they're permanent. They are. Because I'm going to tell you this. There is something to be happy about. Each and every day you wake up, I promise you, if you can name one thing, I ain't going to say 5. Say name 7. One thing you could be happy about. If you're depressed, going through depression, anything, I promise you can name one thing you could be happy about. You're going through depression, but you're still living. You may not have a job, but you can, you have a house to live in. You know, you have clothes to put on your back. One thing to make you happy. Our trials does not give us an excuse or a reason to stay stuck and be a messed up person in who we are. Our trials are supposed to be testimonies. It's like what I'm doing on the podcast. for other people to realize that we could come out and we could be better. And then we can start telling people, I went through that. I went through that. You did. You want people to come to you and say, you did. You actually went through that. When? Because you always walking around with a smile. I want to be that person that people say, she don't look like what she going through. I've seen people that look like that. And you just seen the light and the God in them. At church, outside of church, it don't matter. And they be like, they look like they just not going through nothing. They could be going through the worst mess. But their peace, they have come to a point where regardless of the trial and tribulation, that peace makes them focus on other things and not themselves. Because focusing on yourself is pride. First of all, that's a sin. When you focus on yourself too much, it's pride. You focus on your problems, that's pride. A lot of people don't know that. And then, if you're not focusing on the problem to make it better, and you're overthinking it, or you're not doing something because of this, and you might be overthinking it because it might come out this way, that's still pride. When you start focusing on the outcome, what it could be, that's faith. What it should be, how to help somebody else. Even if you don't have the answer for your own situation, go help somebody else. Call a friend up. What do you need? Call somebody up and say, I just want to pray for you today. God put me on your heart to pray for you today. Text somebody and say, I'm going to see you at church this week or something like that. It's the same thing you need. It don't have to be a money thing. It could be you pointing to someone. You could be, you taking somebody out to lunch. You reconnecting with someone. It could be you just asking God to touch your heart, to forgive people that hurt you in the past and present, so you could be a better person. If you want to focus on yourself, focus on that. Focus on the positivity of that. Don't focus on what was me, what could, well, and because every time you put a but, you're eliminating what the positivity could have. You're eliminating faith. You're eliminating the work. You're eliminating the outcome, the testimony of it all. You say, okay, this is happening to me, but you know what? I'm going to go help somebody else. Your trials don't have to be permanent. They're temporary. But your blessings could always be permanent. Always remember that. Your trials are temporary, but your blessings are permanent. With that being said, I thank you for listening to today's podcast. I hope this touched and encouraged somebody. This was just a transparent podcast for me, for some things that I'm going through that God put on my heart, just to speak from my heart to you. So I thank you for listening, and I hope to see you back next week, or within the next 2 weeks, but it'll probably be next week most likely. And enjoy your summer, enjoy your day. And if you're still listening to this, it's a blessing. So I thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. We are on YouTube. Don't forget, we're on YouTube. If you're listening to this on audio, so like, share, subscribe. Send it to somebody that you may think needs it. And I'll see you back next week. Bye.